On many occasions, the world's greatest investor, Warren Buffett, has said, "Be greedy when others are fearful." The key question is, how exactly can you do that? Hello, my friends. I'm the Electric Viking. Welcome to the channel. Great to have you here. Welcome to all the new subscribers. Welcome back, everyone else. If you are new, we have made over 1,000 videos about electric cars, batteries, and all the technology that will completely change the world over the next decade. Make sure you check out some of those videos. Click on that little bell icon so that you get updated in your feed with our videos. If you just like, subscribe, you probably won't actually get our videos in your feed. Over the past week, I was able to follow Warren Buffett's advice and be greedy when others were fearful. Many were saying that the Chinese stock market would implode, and it basically did before our very eyes. Was that for logical reasons? Did it make sense? No, I don't think it did. I think it was largely based on emotion. I think the reason the value of the market went down, crashed in China, was largely driven not by mathematical, logical, practical reasons, by people saying these are bad companies, these companies are worth peanuts, but because they simply got scared. They became fearful, and a mass panic ensued. People lost a lot of money. Now, I think it was pretty clear what was happening. Really good companies were being sold off cheap because of this fear and this panic. It's really not easy in this situation to rule out emotion, to be logical, and to make the best decision possible. We can easily buy into the fear. But what if the market goes down more? But what if these stocks are delisted from the US stock exchange? But what if Russia does this in Ukraine? There is always a reason to be fearful. And it's always difficult to be greedy when others are fearful. And I found that out the hard way. I've gone through this the hard way. I've had to learn the hard way through actually doing the opposite, selling when others were selling and feeling like, oh, everyone's getting emotional here and there's some fears here that maybe there's a reason for this and maybe coronavirus this and maybe that, and so maybe I should sell. And I've had to learn the hard way. But fortunately, this past week, I was able to recognize this situation. And a lot of that came from the fact that I do this channel. I do a lot of research on this channel. I do, as you know, probably more than 30 videos a week. And that requires a lot of research. It requires me to read hundreds and hundreds of articles. It requires me to put together spreadsheets so that I know what I'm talking about. So I'm not making stuff up. There's many YouTube channels, as you know, they just make stuff up. Clickbait. In this sector, there's many of them. The idea for those channels is to simply entertain you. The purpose of this channel is to educate you, help you to make money over the next decade, help you to understand what is going to happen over the next decade, help you to take advantage of that scenario. And I can't do that if I'm just clickbaiting you into thinking, wow, look at this fantasy, look at this legacy auto, they're going to be amazing, look what they're going to do. It's just pure fantasy. So that has been really beneficial for me to be able to go, hey, look what's happening. Xpeng, NIO, BYD, even Alibaba, all sold off to the point of insanity. NIU, another company that I've advised people here on this channel to buy. Now, what happened? Well, over the past couple of months, I've had people message me saying, you told me to buy this electric car stock and now it's gone down. And I always have to remind them, the stock market is not about making a profit in a week or a month or necessarily even a year. That is called gambling. When you find a good company at a fair value, you should buy that company. But one of the key challenges is, what about if there's lots of good companies at fair value? How do you then decide which company to buy? Well, I think you take advantage of situations like what we just saw over the past week, where many people acted incredibly emotionally. That's when you get greedy and take advantage of their fear. Fortunately, that's what I was able to do. I bought Xpeng, I bought NIO, I bought NIU, I bought BYD, I bought Alibaba, and I even bought Rivian. And I was very criticized on this channel for suggesting you should do the same. However, all of those 5 trades have made an average return of 30%. over the past few days since I made them. And I believe that is simply the tip of the iceberg. I think the value of most of those companies will double versus the prices that I paid for them by the end of this year. Why? Because they're all good companies. I've done my research on those companies. Rivian, on the other hand, yes, they're the only questionable one. And that was more of a buy low, sell high, not a long-term horizon stock for me. Could be, definitely could succeed, but there's too many question marks for me to say that's a long-term stock with confidence. The other companies there, they absolutely will be part of the next generation where we change the world. We move from ICE cars to electric cars. We move from the past to a digital future. And yes, even Alibaba, one of the most feared stocks over the last 12 months due to the enormous losses investors have taken as it crashed from over $300 in value all the way down to $75, making it the cheapest tech stock in the history of tech stocks. That was the point in which everyone was saying, be fearful, rush out, rush out, rush out. And clearly that was the indicator that it was time to get in. Not only that, it wasn't only that, it's also if we assess the fundamental values of a company, those things don't change because the market panics. Fundamental values of a company, can they make cars? Can they make electric cars? Can they make it at a profit? Can they do what they're doing successfully over the next decade? And once you realize that yes, they can and they will, then you have to eliminate that fear. So here's what I did. I bought Xpeng at $19 at 4 p.m. on the 14th of March. That was in spite of the fact that my last buy-in price was at $38. Now, you might be saying, well, it was at $38 and, it crashed all the way down to 19, so you lost a lot of money. Well, the key here is, even if you have bought that stock before and you feel emotionally like, well, I've lost money, look at the stock price now. Sometimes that's the best opportunity to get back in and to regain those losses. So buying at $19, buying more than what I bought in the past, enabled me to regain those losses very, very quickly. So now my average buy-in price is way below the current stock value. Now the price of the stock, in my view, is still very, very cheap. It provides you with a huge opportunity. Even though the price has gone back up, I still think it's an incredible opportunity. From that price of $19, it's now sitting at $29. That's a pretty significant increase over the course of less than a week. However, Xpeng was at $55 on the 30th of November 2021, and they are one of only 5 car companies this year that will deliver 300,000 electric cars. And I mean full-size cars. They don't sell micro cars. They sell proper, impressive cars that will lay the smackdown to the rubbish coming from Toyota and other car companies such as the Toyota Camry. In comparison, as many of you saw my comparison video of the P5 versus the Camry, a similarly priced car, you can see, you would have to be an idiot not to see, that the P5 destroys the Camry for the same price. That you cannot change. That is a fact. This year, we know what Xpeng plan on doing. They achieved their goals last year. In fact, they achieved 10% more sales than their stretch goal last year. Their goal this year is 300,000. I have no reason to believe they can't achieve the same numbers this year, meaning the stock right now is still very cheap. Second stock, NIU. 12 months ago, NIU stock was valued at $40. And even then, most analysts said it was a buy. $40 12 months ago. Fast forward 12 months, and the stock sat at $7.70, meaning that if you'd bought in then, yes, in theory, on paper, you would have lost a boatload of money. However, by that point, the company had then become the cheapest electric mobility manufacturer in the world based on its price to earnings, which had dropped to below 15, making it possibly the cheapest growth stock in the electric industry, period, globally, that actually makes a profit and has done so for 2 successive years in every single quarter. Nothing about this company has fundamentally changed over the past 12 months. Only the emotional perception of investors. So I bought in at US $7.90. A few days later, the stock now sits at $10.90. $2.40. It's increased a fair bit. It still has a long way to go back up. It's still very, very cheap. And I believe the value of that stock will likely double by the end of this year. So that's another opportunity for you. On the 30th of June, 2021, NIO, the only true luxury electric car manufacturer that only makes electric cars and sells in volume, the only one that meets those criteria on the face of planet Earth, was sitting at $53.20. And at this point in time, people were still buying at $53. Well, fast forward to the 14th of March 2022, and in spite of a company which was only improving, the stock had dropped all the way to $14. 50 down to 14. That's when I knew I had to buy more. The stock has since rebounded to US $20, but it's still very, very cheap, especially if you compare it to other electric vehicle manufacturers such as Rivian and Lucid, who clearly are nowhere near as capable of producing electric cars as NIO is. Next, we have BYD. Of course, if you watch this channel, you will know a lot about BYD and why they will be one of the biggest companies on the face of planet Earth by the end of this decade. On the 23rd of November 2021, BYD stock was trading at $81.10. That's BYDDY, by the way, for those of you who would like to look this up. On the 14th of March 2022, it had fallen to $43, meaning it was nearly half the price that it was trading at less than 4 months earlier. However, in those 4 months' time, what do we know about the company? Well, we know, if you've been watching this channel, you would know a lot about BYD. If you've been watching this channel, BYD, during that period of time, announced building a 100 gigawatt hour lithium iron phosphate battery gigafactory in China, which will be completed more than likely by the end of this year. We also found out that their vehicle gigafactory, which will build potentially 1 million electric cars per year, would be completed by the end of June. We also found out that BYD's sales increased from November to December by an additional 10,000 electric vehicle deliveries. In addition, in February, they overtook Volkswagen to become the second largest car manufacturer in China. For the month of February, that is. For the month of February. So in that 3.5 month period of time, everything we know about that company showed that they are on track to become one of the world's 3 largest electric vehicle manufacturers on the face of the planet, and one of the world's 3 largest manufacturers of cars, period, by 2030. And everything they have been doing has pointed to the fact that that will in fact happen. Everything. In addition to that, we also learned that it was likely BYD would deliver around 1.7 million electric and plug-in hybrid vehicles this year, making them probably the second largest electric vehicle company on the face of the planet. In addition, we also learned that BYD would sell its electric cars in around about 30 different countries worldwide. And yet, all of that somehow justified the fact that BYD's stock price fell by nearly 50%. Well, clearly, you can see the emotion was palpable. So I jumped in and bought as much as I could. On the 16th of November 2021, Rivian stock sat at $172. Yes, this is a little bit like the tulip bubble of the 16th century in the Netherlands. Clearly, that bubble was going to burst very soon. For those of you who owned the stock when it was at $172, I genuinely feel sorry for you. Because at 10 a.m. on the 15th of March, Rivian's stock price had dropped to $34 from its high of 172. I made a video at that time talking about why Rivian stock was potentially a buy. And in the comment sections, I got completely roasted. I pointed out some interesting facts. They are one of the very few manufacturers in the world who has decided in the West that yes, they should use LFP batteries. I pointed out that they are trying to copy Tesla into vertical integration. I pointed out that they are making the savviest hire of the last 2 years by hiring the president of Magna-Steyr, the world's most successful contract manufacturing company on the face of planet Earth, and the person best suited to solve Rivian's number one problem, which was manufacture. Does Rivian have an ordering problem? Absolutely not. They have over 80,000 pre-orders for very high-end, very expensive vehicles. The only problem that they have, and it is a big one, is manufacturing those vehicles. However, hiring the best person placed to help them solve that issue, yes, it's a long-term issue. Yes, it won't be solved overnight. I'm aware of that. Don't get emotional when your response to me. Consider what I'm telling you. I don't think he's going to solve their problems within a day. Yes, it could take 2 years. However, that was still the best decision that Rivian could make. Going to LFP was still the best decision that Rivian could make. And I pointed out some other key decisions Rivian had made within the last few weeks that were very positive. After Rivian hit a low of $34, I decided it was time to buy. A few days later, Rivian's now sitting at $45.50. And whether or not I decide to sell will be a decision that I make based on decisions that company makes over the upcoming months. And finally, Alibaba. On the 23rd of October, 2020, Alibaba stock was sitting at $310. And that was when the shit literally hit the fan. Jack Ma disappeared after criticizing the Chinese Communist Party publicly. And many thought he was dead. The Western media got all excited and wet its pants in its efforts to paint a picture that he was either dead or imprisoned for life. And that was the end of Alibaba. Well, the market reacted. And boy, did it overreact. A year and a half later, what was, and still is, a very successful and very impressive growth story. One of the greatest growth stories in tech company history. And clearly the most impressive technology stock in China had dropped all the way from $310 to $74 on that day that happened. The media was awash with negative articles on why you should sell. Sell, sell, sell. Fear, fear, fear. Run, run, run. And guess what? I knew then it was time to buy. The price to earnings had dropped to 8, the lowest price for a growing technology company in history. 3 days later, the stock now sits at $108. And you know what? I could just go, hey, this is great. I bought in at 74. It's now 108. I'm going to profit. But you know what? I still think that it is a bargain at $108. This is a company that makes a lot of money and reinvests that money into its growth. Regardless of your fears of China and your fears of all the stuff you've read in the Western media, which over-exaggerates everything and tries to paint you a little picture to get you to click on their articles. China is not in any rush to crush Alibaba. In fact, the Chinese economy rests largely on the success of these companies, which is why it said it will back its stock companies, it will back its finance industry in order to support these companies and make sure that they grow. And yes, I know we in the West, we love to criticize China. We love to see them as the bad, evil guys, and we're the good guys here in the West, and they're bad over there. It's never quite that simple. And you should never believe that it is. If the media paints you that picture, you should instantly recognize the fact that they're just clickbaiting you, getting you to buy into an us versus them story. And things like this, they really remind me of Rocky IV. America versus the big bad Russia. The good guy, Rocky Balboa, versus the bad guy, Ivan Drago. That's the kind of story we often paint here in the West. But the truth is, as Ray Dalio said, cash is trash. If you had cash sitting around during this period of time where these stocks crumbled, even the price of Tesla dropped so low to the point where you should have considered buying, I believe, if you'd been following the company and what they've been doing. And if you didn't, then this is a good learning experience for you for next time. Now, with massive inflation globally set to continue, I don't believe it's wise to hold your money in cash. The wiser thing to do is to find good companies or even excellent companies selling at a fair or even a very good price. If you're interested in seeing my actual trades, well, all you got to do is jump on our Patreon account, become a supporter, because I'm going to post them all on there. I'll take screenshots of my trades. I'll show you the buy-in prices. I'll show you what they're at now. So for those of you who are Patreon supporters, that will be coming to you soon when I've got the time between making videos. But don't worry, it's coming soon. I hope you've learned a valuable lesson from this. I know many of you probably took advantage of this the same way I did. Let me know in the comment section below what your experience was. The valuable lesson: learn from the world's greatest investor. Warren Buffett was and still is the greatest investor the world has ever known. And remember, be greedy when others are fearful.